Hello. My first proper job, it was as a prison psychologist in the 1970s. And I was trained to be a clinical psychologist, so I could do one-to-ones with felons, and the idea that I might help them. I met this fellow who was a professor at London University, and he said to me, John, he said, look, instead of working with these people on a one-to-one basis, why don't you change the system? You'll have much more impact. And it's one of those moments, you know, when you kind of go, God, I know he's right, but I don't know what to do. So I dropped the clinical work and I went to study under him. I studied occupational psychology in London. And I became completely enamoured with a subject on the curriculum called Intervention Theory and Method, which is all about how do you go into a system that's full of people and help them in such a way that when they get further problems in the future, they have the wherewithal to approach them without you. Now, you know, when I think now, what I know now, that's so unlike what the big consultancies would do. You know, the big consultancies brief their top people on don't let them think without you. You know, your client needs you in the room when they're doing any thinking. They want dependency. I want independency. I was just chatting with someone this morning, you know, as a measure of this, I can tell you that next week I've got to cut short a break in order to get back into London because I've got to speak to a worldwide audience from Aviva because our work is now the strategy in Aviva for all operational change. And they've done an awful lot of good work on the service operations, and now they've got to address some of the bigger system issues, and they want me to talk about that. We haven't worked there for 5 years. And that's a measure of transferring know-how, which is what an interventionist is all about. Now, intervention is really, it's all about how do you make change to help people make change on the basis of informed choice, on the basis of knowledge. And that's central to what the Vanguard method is about. Now, I have to say, when I left university in the 70s, I kind of had no meat in my sandwich. I was very interested in intervention theory, but I didn't have anything to intervene on, you know. And then I got lucky. I was asked to audit TQM programs. That's kind of like Lean, you know. Lean of the 80s was TQM, total quality management. Let's take these Japanese tools and that'll do it, kind of thing. And so I had to audit why they failed. And I thought, well, if you're going to understand why things fail, you need to understand how an organisation works. And so, you know, being a naive person, I start interviewing managers on how things work. And I review my notes and I'm thinking, no, they told me what they did. That's not the same as how's it work. And because they were quality programs I was studying, I had to read the gurus, and boom, I found Deming's work, Out of the Crisis. If you haven't read it, it's a must-read book. It's a criticism of Western management thought. He makes the point, we invented management, so we can change it. Some people will tell you that organisations are complex systems. They're not. They're unnecessarily complicated systems, and we make them complicated. And I was working in service organisations. He had nothing to say about service. He had a lot to say about manufacturing. So that became the focus. How do we change service organisations to manage them as systems? So we stepped forward 10 years or so. I think this is important because, you know, in Vanguard, you learn new things all the time. I always say my business changes every 5 years. You know, in the last couple of years, it's been digital. And it reminds me of what we were doing in the mid-80s. It's the same. And what were we doing in the mid-80s? Well, along comes a new technology, automated call distribution systems. And the technologists confuse features with benefits. Features, you can do this. Oh, it must be a benefit. So now you can get rid of the telephone call people in your branches, and you can hire people in the armpits of Britain, send all the calls there, and it's cheaper. Great. And everyone that did that in the 80s found that the volume of demand as predicted in the plan was wrong and demand went up. And I remember the guys running a bank, they went, oh, look, demand went up. It's because our customers love talking to us. They think the telephone's cool. And of course it was failure demand. And it's the same today with digital. Along comes technology. You can now have these features. They're all benefits. Well, let's make them. Let's shove them out there. Let's drive the customers into these channels. Let's have targets on the volumes we can get through. And boom, what happens? There's all this failure demand in the service centres. It's the same. Why are we doing it? Well, we're told by the big consultancies that there are disruptors out there. You don't want to be the next Blockbuster. Everybody wants to do stuff on their phone. You'd be a mug not to follow the herd. Join the bandwagon. And they design and they implement, and boom, the costs go up. Brilliant. You'll hear stories about this today. Failure demand is systemic. When you first start talking with managers about failure demand, they kind of go, well, it's the bloody people. If those bloody people would do as they should, we wouldn't have any failure demand. It's the bloody processes. Fix the processes. No, it's systemic. It's your whole design is ineffective. Failure demand is a signal of ineffectiveness. Don't bother studying it. It tells you you're wrong. You've got to design it out. How do you design it out? By designing an effective service. Now, when digital came along, there was a new thing to focus on. It's not just the people and the processes. We get requests for quotations from financial services companies who've recognised that they've implemented a digital strategy and they've got all this failure demand in their call centres, and they say to us, we want you to help us change the customer's behaviour. You couldn't be more wrong. They think it's like the same problem as when we got ATMs. So how do we get customers to use ATMs instead of coming into the branches? But the difference is ATMs work. So why are you designing digital services that don't work? And it's how you go about it. The IT industry doesn't tell you something that you ought to know, and that is that 90% of major IT programs fail. 30% fail completely, chuck them out, and 60% fail in as much as they don't deliver as intended, they cost more and so on. This is all well researched, but the IT industry doesn't tell you this. They keep moving on to the next sexy thing and selling this new feature as a benefit. Or they'll tell you, no, it'll be okay this time because we do Agile. I mean, this is what Whitehall believe. Do Agile, you'll be fine. Well, no, that fails too. I mean, I have massive sympathy for the Agile Manifesto. Okay? But I think things like, when they say fail fast, I think, why fail? Why fail? Why do they fail? Because they make stuff up. How do we build our digital stuff? We sit in a room and dream stuff up. Put it out there, because they'll think it's cool. So, I mean, do you know this? That, and the evidence is coming through on this now, that when you employ Agile as a methodology, 50 to 80% of what you actually build never gets used. But you pay for it. You're going to have some very big key messages today. I think the most important of which is IT is the last thing you do in an effective change, not the first. The first thing you do is get knowledge, study. In particular, you need to understand customer demand. Customers are trying to pull value from your system. And the reason they call the call centres is because the things you've designed for them in your push, do IT first way, aren't helping them pull value. So that's, creates a problem. having studied, the second thing you do is improve the service to make it more effective for a customer. Then the third thing, final thing that you do is pull IT into that. The consequence is everything you build, you use. No 50% not used, 80% not used. Why? Well, because everything you build is now based on knowledge of the demand, the value work, the flow, and how IT is going to help optimize that. So you spend a lot less and you get a lot more. Another thing that is a kind of key issue for any service design, regardless of whether we're using IT, is that to have an effective service design, you need to understand how the system will absorb variety, So, we make this mistake a lot in command and control land. We think standardizing services will make things more efficient. That's wrong. If you standardize a service, you stop the system from absorbing variety, and that creates more failure demand. Okay? You need to understand the nature of demand from customers, the variety in that demand. You need to design a system that can absorb that variety. While you're doing that, when you get to the improved stage and the questions about IT, stage 3, you're going to learn that there are things that you can use IT for and the things that you should never use IT for. This is what that ultimately results in an effective service. The idea that everything is going to be on IT is for the birds. You just cannot deal with very high complexity because IT works on rules.
This is the first time I've had the pleasure of following John as a speaker. And as the IT guy and agile enthusiast in the room, I want to start by saying every single thing he just said is true. And you just received a 15-minute end-to-end masterclass in all of the elements of the Vanguard method. Be very, very mindful that the problem or solution shouldn't be seen as a technology thing. If it is seen as a technology problem or a technology opportunity to improve things, you will usually end up solving the wrong problem and usually end up making it worse. The behaviours of the leader, you as a leader, or your leader, or the leaders in your team, the way they behave every single day casts an incredibly long shadow throughout the organisation. And without a leader who is prepared to give people the freedom and the safety to learn, everything else is for naught.
It wasn't about technology. For me, innovation, and especially when listening to the likes of, as I've said, the Steve Jobs, etc., it was starting to sound like we needed to really understand the problems of our customers, their life problems, and be very deliberate about solving those, and use technology to help us to deliver that. And that's why we absolutely enjoyed working with the team, because they gave us a method of how to understand. Because there are lots of ways. I mean, if you speak to anyone in business, they'll tell you how they've done customer insights and they've done a whole lot of work. But I don't think we quite had the right method to really understand.
We essentially, and again, this is not Lloyd's specific, this is very general, other organisations I've worked for as well, have designed an organisational structure that works for them, but does not necessarily work for their customers. So we specialise, we functionalise, we create silos of operation and plough work into there. And that's really good for a business to load balance and get through work and manage SLAs, but it's a terrible customer experience.
Anybody who touches anything or builds anything or is actually making improvement, they can't do it unless they've studied the system first. They can't do it unless they're coming from a position of understanding or knowledge, whichever way you want to say it, right? So that's essentially, nobody moves in our business now about whatever thing they're doing, if they're coding anything, if they're building anything, if they're changing processes. It cannot be done unless you can prove you've been through the understand phase and you've studied it for yourself. What we've learned is every time you start with technology, it doesn't work. You just drive your costs up. Every time. The evidence suggests when you start with technology, your costs go up.